Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and Executive Director Floyd, who this morning effectively presented the need for the elimination of nuclear testing. Excellencies, we are all gathered here today with a deep sense of responsibility on the critical issue of nuclear weapons and their testing, which poses one of the gravest threats to global security and the well-being of future generations. I cannot but, Mr. President, recall the words of President Obama in 2009 in Prague as a salutary reminder of our continuing responsibility in contemporary times. Quote, he said that as a nuclear power, as the only nuclear power to have used a nuclear weapon, the United States has a moral responsibility to act. We cannot succeed in this endeavor, he said, alone, but we can lead it, we can start it. My dear friends, so can we. We must start it. So today I state clearly, he says, with conviction, of our commitment to seek peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons. This goal, he says, will not be reached quickly, perhaps not in our lifetimes. It will take patience. It will take persistence. But now, too, we cannot ignore the voices to tell us that the world cannot change. The United States, he says, will take concrete steps towards the world without nuclear weapons to put an end to Cold War thinking, and I would say Cold Peace thinking in this day and age. We will reduce the role of nuclear weapons in our national security strategy and urge others to do the same. He continues, and he says, to achieve a global ban on nuclear testing, my administration will immediately and aggressively pursue ratification of the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty and to cut off the building blocks needed for a bomb, and we will seek a new treaty that verifiably ends the production of fissile materials intended for use in nuclear weapons. Together, he says, we will strengthen the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty as a basis for cooperation. That is the spirit in which I believe that we should pursue the future. My dear friends, given the unprecedented devastation that nuclear weapons have caused, I say it is imperative that we make a collective effort to eliminate them and ban their testing. Let us revisit the first atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Are we not still bearing the scars, I ask, of those horrific events today? Now, these bombings serve, I say, as a stark reminder of the catastrophic consequences that nuclear weapons can unleash. Despite our collective commitment to ensuring that such strategies never occur again, that should be our commitment. Mr. President, then I ask, can we not use this day not merely as a commemoration that we do year in and year out, but as a resolute stamp, I say, of our commitment to eliminating nuclear weapons and their testing? Mr. President, Sri Lanka stands with the global community in its fervent plea to be free from the threat of nuclear warfare. We strongly support all efforts aimed at achieving a world without nuclear weapons, and we see the banning of nuclear tests as a critical step in this direction. For decades, Sri Lanka has steadfastly championed the cause of a nuclear weapons-free world. Our dedication to nuclear disarmament is firmly anchored, I say, in the principles of universality, non-discrimination, and verifiability. Mr. President, we are convinced that achieving this goal requires a clear, time-bound process supported by global commitment and a comprehensive multilateral framework. My dear friends, in light of today's global security challenges, we welcome the renewed focus of the international community of our shared objectives of eliminating nuclear threats. In addition to eliminating nuclear weapons, my delegation believes that we must also consider how their potential can be harnessed for the betterment of humanity. Mr. President, today our global objective must be the complete elimination of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. Every nation, every member state has a role to play in this endeavor. Sri Lanka remains committed to ensuring that the devastating consequences of nuclear weapons are not forgotten for future generations. We place significant importance on education in disarmament and non-proliferation and hope that today's discussion will heighten public awareness of the urgent need for nuclear disarmament. To make these arguments valid, we must take concrete steps. We cannot just pay lip service to this topic. First, we need a comprehensive time-bound plan for nuclear disarmament, supported by all nations through multilateral frameworks. Secondly, I believe that the international community must enforce and strengthen existing treaties such as the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons to prevent nuclear proliferation and ensure that nuclear technology is used only for peaceful purposes. Finally, we must invest in education and public awareness campaigns to ensure that the lessons of the past are not forgotten and to build global consensus for a nuclear-free world. Mr. President, permit me to say something a little more interesting. This morning, we were treated to a fine exhibition of paintings by our youth on the dangers of nuclear testing. They were accompanied, of course, by poetic expressions on the paintings, which I captured on my telephone this morning. Permit me to conclude by reading just one of them. It was called The Atomic Sonnet by George Platt of the United Kingdom. This is how it went. As the curtain opens upon the stage, we find ourselves in our nuclear age. Since man split the atom, the planet has shaken, and peace has been ionized by war's radiation. But still, the faint glow of the world at its best is that half-life of hope before nuclear test, before fission and chaos and power and thunder, when we saw in mankind an unsearchable wonder. And yet, can we turn back the atomic clock? As the first bombs did, and if the first bombs did never drop, to return to our perfect, imperfect, peaceful past, and instead fuse our dreams in that critical mass. Before the final curtain falls upon the stage, we must try once more for our new, clear age. This, my dear friends, is the dream of our future generations. We owe it to them as trustees of our planet and its beings. Mr. President, the urgency of our task cannot therefore be overstated. Our time on this earth is, let's appreciate it, limited, and we must use it wisely to secure a peaceful and dignified future for all mankind. The youth of today would tell us plainly that the world can and must exist without nuclear weapons. I thank you, Mr. President.